In LCR Honda in 2025, so quite what destination 26 is going to be for Chandra. Well, it does look like maybe Honda's World Superbike team could be a possible destination for him. There's been no sort of inclination that he might be stepping back into Moto2. I guess we could always expect some promising signs from Chandra, because this is one of the very few tracks that he is coming to in his rookie season where he has previous experience on the LCR Honda. Of course, he did make his debut here on the RC213V at the post-race test here in November 2024. So a little bit of experience and a little bit of data to call upon for Chandra. He's still going to go out there do the lap time, and that's exactly what he has done at the moment.
Sonkat Chandra, he and the band of brothers, I guess they are. Friend and former teammate, of course, in Moto2, Agura. Of course, as close as brothers. Agura currently at the moment up in 11th place. And second of the Aprilias now, of course, with Marco Bezzecchi's recent improvement. Bezzecchi 9, top 10 at the moment. Alex Marquez, Ducati, Acosta and Binder, KTM. Marini and Zarco, Honda. Bastianini, KTM. Marc Marquez, Ducati. Miller, Yamaha. Bezzecchi, Aprilia. And
so this feels very much like the calm before.
towards the end of the race because he crashed right here at turn 10 when he was trying to challenge Jorge Martin and, of course, eventual winner Pecco Bagnaia at the front of the race. That's done a bulk of his work in this afternoon session on that soft rear tyre has Pedro Acosta, which we'd certainly expect to be the primary choice in the Tissot Sprint tomorrow afternoon, which, of course, will take place over 12 laps at 3 p.m.
Here's the beast. Right, Cowboy, as he got on the gas coming out of turn 13. Turning that RC16 into a bit of a bucking bronco was Sanea. Over the line he goes. This has been a promising Friday as well, isn't it, as far as the Italian is concerned. Quickly putting behind in what was a bit of a horror show, to say the least, in Hungary, as you referenced this morning. First lap falls in both the sprint and the Grand Prix. Certainly not what Anea was expecting at the Balaton Park circuit, where he'd been right at the sharp end, really, throughout. He's pushing, he really is attacking. Another moment there for Anea as he powered the RC16 out of turn 3. Good first sector, though. Wheel spin as well through turn 4, then left into turn 5, where he completely destroyed a KTM there at the November test last year.
Yeah, if there's one sector you'd expect that KTM to be especially strong in, it is that first sector, of course, which is essentially the start-finish straight. You do go, of course, through turns 1 and 2 before you click up the first sector timing beam, but he's also picked up time in sector 2 as well, as he now hangs it out through turn number 9, challenging corner, that taken at around 130 kilometers an hour. Hard braking now for turn 10, braking on the angle as you round the long turn 10. The future boss of the Tech 3 squad might feel he's got the Midas touch if Enea Bastianini can take this to top spot.
Yeah, Enea's manager's going to be starting those 2027 contract talks with Gunther Steiner right now, isn't he? Because this is some lap that the Beast is producing. That was a little bit more tidy than his last excursion through turn 30. Look at that shot on the inside camera. Knee and elbow scraping the inside curve there through the third gear, turn 14. And Enea Bastianini then does find the quickest time of day one here in Barcelona, 1:38.972. Second rider, second KTM of the day into the 1:38s. That's just inside Acosta's 1:38.979 this morning.
It's already coming under some quite serious threat, though, from you-know-who. Marc Marquez is out there on a soft rear tyre now, and he's set now the fastest first sector of this session so far. Because once again, it does not like the comfiest ride for Enea Bastianini, but it's certainly quick.
He's wringing the neck of that KTM right now, isn't he, here in Catalonia? Is Bastianini. But it might all be immaterial very, very quickly, because Marc Marquez is coming to play. He powers the factory Ducati through turn 9. Look at that right height device drop down to pick up the maximum acceleration on this squirt down now into turn 10. A leg drops through the left-hander. These two left-handers now where Marc Marquez will be so strong. Well, we thought a 1:38.9 was pretty flash. We've seen 2 so far from Acosta and Bastianini. But this is about to see goalpost moved and some. Joan Zarco is in a real strong lap, to be fair to him, on the LCR Honda. But we'll follow Mark then out of the final corner. Just stays off the green as well. And of course, it's a 1:38.444. And he goes briefly half a second clear, because just at the top of your picture there, coming out of the final corner, was Zarco. What a lap that was by Zarco. 1:38.511. Zarco's second fastest this morning, and he's now second quickest afternoon. Top job.
Yeah, I think many chins would have hit the floor when Marc Marquez said a 38.4, but Zarco near enough matched it. Here comes Jack Miller on the Yamaha for Pramac, of course, which will be staying on for next season. He now goes up into 4th place on a 39.0, and I think what we're seeing already underlines that if you want to be in qualifying 2 in 13 minutes time, you're probably going to need a 1:38.
Miller on the Pramac Yamaha got prime track position there. He was tucked in lovely behind Aldeguer's Ducati, punching a big hole in the air for the Yamaha. And that would have certainly helped Miller at the start of this start-finish straight. Costa then now sets his best time of day one, 1:38.852 from the Spaniard. Still work to do. He's just, well, only 3.5 tenths behind Zarco, 4 tenths behind Mark, as now we pick up Alex He's just now on the fat part of the tyre, grabs a handful of throttle, then out of the final corner. 73 goes up into P3. Pace is certainly hotting up here in Catalonia.
Yeah, I think Marc Marquez has definitely got still some time on the table in that final sector, because we've seen Zarco and now Alex Marquez go quicker than Marc through there. So his 600ths of a second advantage could well be a bit nearer a quarter of a second had he got that final sector right. Brad Binder has set the fastest first sector, matched by Pedro Acosta. Once again, the KTM is positively rapid in the first part of the lap.
At the moment, we've got Yamaha 6th, 7th and 8th. Miller, Oliveira and Rins. Fair play to Oliveira and Rins. They've just set their best times of the opening day here as well. Miller still using Aldeguer as an ideal reference. Ahead of him, we'll track those two now out of the final corner. Just ahead of those two is the former pole starter here in Barcelona, Aleix Espargaro, who goes up into P8.
Yeah, so we've now got Martin 10th on the factory Aprilia. He's just recently set a lap time in the low 39s. That's not going to get him through, though, with the likes of Binder, Marini and Aldeguer right behind him. Binder could be about to go right to the very top here. Both of the factory KTMs going very, very quickly. Here comes Acosta then, who's going to get himself well into the 38. A 38.6 now puts him into third place, but we're keeping a close eye out for the South African. Here comes Brad Binder.
Binder then through the final corner. He's up by a whisker. Can he get himself inside that top 3? He'll just be happy to be inside the top 10, won't he, at the end of this session. Fourth place then goes Binder with a 138.638. The two factory Hondas on the move as well. And me at 7th, Marini 8th as Alex. And now Nav's top spot away from Marc, a 138.349. Dare we believe, dare we dream that there's possibly a 137 on the table?
And again, it was all in Sector 4 for Alex Marquez versus Marc Marquez. Oliveira improves again. He's in 8th place then. He is once again the top Yamaha, as he was for a lot of this morning, in fairness. Here comes Jorge Martin looking to show Aprilia's cards in this session, but it's only good enough for 12th.
Martin sporting that beautiful home race helmet that's been designed by fans. The competition, didn't they? Milestone, producer of the MotoGP video game, set a challenge, design Jorge Martin's home race helmet, and that was the winning entry. And I've got to say, out on circuit, it just looks as good as it was when Jorge presented it in the pre-event press conference here yesterday. At the moment, what is going on right now with number 63, Bagnaia? He's just put in a 139.368, which compared to Alex and Marc is nowhere. He's a second behind the 73 and 93. Finally, he does dip into the 139s. It's just nowhere near good enough at the moment for Pecco.
Well, once again, it's the curious conundrum of the Ducati GP25. Marc Marquez is second, Pecco Bagnaia is 20th, and Fabio Di Giannantonio is 22nd, although he hasn't improved yet on a soft rear tyre. Quartararo has now to go into 9th place, so we now have Yamaha's 8th and 9th.
Zarco, for me, has been the star of this afternoon session, star of day one in many respects. On the LCR Honda, second this morning, third fastest this afternoon. Surely that 138.511 maybe good enough already to see Zarco through into Q2. This is a replay of Martin going through turn 3. This will be late on in Sunday's 24, that MotoGP race, but you really are going to have to show some finesse with that right hand. You're going to have the traction control dialed in perfectly, because that's where you really do start to smoke and abuse that right hand side of the rear tyre. Turn 3 and turn 14, as mentioned, are the two corners around this 4.6 kilometre venue where you really do punish that right hand side of the tyre. Here's Aldeguer. At the moment then, still looking to nudge his nose into the top 10. The rookie up to 11th with a 138.929.
And Fabio Quartararo could be about to move himself much closer towards the Marquez brothers, who are in the low to mid 138. At the moment, it's estimating that he won't move up more than a couple of places with this final sector to come, which we know Alex Marquez was super strong in. Here comes the number 20 with the pink 20 in the changed crash helmet design for this weekend. It's not quite as good a final sector as Alex Marquez, but it does move Quartararo up to the top 4. We now have French riders 3rd and 4th.
How's he doing that? How is Quartararo doing this on a Yamaha? We know that this track, notoriously low grip, ice rink conditions generally here in Barcelona. We know how much the Yamaha suffers when the grip levels are low, so that 38.602 once again, just more power to the brilliance of Quartararo. The Gianantonio needs a big lap, finds a big lap, up 12 places from 22nd to 10th. He certainly will not be able to relax though with that 138.915. At the moment, good enough for the top 10. But there's plenty of peril coming his way potentially. He's only 3,000 clear of Marini, who in turns 100th ahead of Aldeguer. So, well, that battle behind the Gianantonio, from Marini down to Rins in 19th. Nothing between them, barely at all.
Super close. And we've got Di Gianantonio, Marini, Aldeguer, Morbidelli, Bastianini and Martin all on 138.9s. I said you need to be in the 38s to get himself into the top 10. Well, the 38.9 is not going to be good enough. You're going to have to get yourself well into the 38s. At the moment, we've got Ducati's first and second, Honda third, Yamaha fourth, KTM's fifth and sixth, Aprilia 7th, Honda 8th, Yamaha 9th, Ducati 10th.
Lots and lots of questions right now about Bagnaia, and you have to say not many answers are coming out of his side of the factory, Ducati garage. Does he need a big 6 minutes or so here in Barcelona? Bagnaia well adrift. 139.368 sees the double winner here in 2024, 21st as he starts this final run. Only Raul Fernandez, who's having a pretty torrid Friday so far, the Trackhouse, the returning Somkjær Chantra and Aprilia test rider Lorenzo Savadori find themselves behind Bagnaia.
So Alex Marquez has been given the message. He's been followed by the number 93. Well, there's a double meaning to that one. Not only is Marc Marquez in that queue, riders right behind him, but in terms of the standings, he is literally being followed by Marc Marquez at the moment. You've got the canny Spaniards of Alex Rins and Aleix Espargaro have been able to drop themselves into the gap between the Marquez brothers, which Marc Marquez is now trying to remedy. He's up the inside in the background there on Aleix Espargaro. The Marquez brothers in Marquez territory here in Catalonia are looking to underline their class, which they've demonstrated for all of 2025.
He needs to steady the ship though, does Alex. Just one podium in the last 5. He's dumped it in Assen, Brno, and most recently in Balaton. You always got the sense, this kind of circuit, Rebel Ring in Hungary, the last couple of Grand Prix, stop-start, tight, twisty, not really playing to the strengths of Alex's sort of aggressive, fast and flowing riding style. And this really does play into his hands, doesn't it, the Barcelona circuit? And we know when he made his GP24 debut here in November, well, Alex creamed the field. He looked brilliant, and from the get-go, on day one on the GP24, he said, this is the motorcycle that I've been waiting for. This is the bike where I can finally show my full potential in MotoGP. Has not disappointed, has he? Second in the World Championship.
Well, Marco Bezzecchi is looking to take a rather different route to the front row of the grid as he has the last couple of Grand Prix when he's gone through Q1, and that certainly puts him in a good position to avoid Q1 this time. Up into third place now on 138.475. Miller just behind him goes 9th, so we now have a trio of Yamahas up inside the top 10.
Look at this from the beast as well. Doesn't seem that long ago, does it, since we saw the number 23 at the top of the timesheets, but Anea has been pushed back down to 15th now. There's been no improvement on his early 138.972. Acosta, though, is flying on another KTM. KTMs are having a field day here, aren't they, on day one in Catalonia. We're going to follow Bastianini now. Down the hill he goes, flings it onto the right-hand side through the Catalunya corner here in Catalonia. Bastianini, surely this is going to be a top 3, that 4th place for Anea, 138.490. Ayagura just behind the beast. The rookie's just set the 7th best time in this session, as Acosta does indeed go top. Binder, though, behind him. The two factory KTM teammates now 1st and 2nd. Now this would be a shock. Brad Binder leading the way with a 138.141. What a Friday for KTM.
Well, their slogan is ready to race. They look it right now, don't they? Binder from Acosta, they've got a couple of tenths in their pocket over the Marquez brothers, and Marc Marquez not improving on this current lap. KTM's first, second and sixth, and of course Maverick Vinales is in the pits at the moment, of course conserving energy. So what a Friday they're having. Marc Marquez does improve to a 38.3, but he's still 2 tenths adrift.
I had a coffee last night in the KTM garage with a couple of Binder's mechanics. They were saying how much they need to find pace on a soft tyre. I'm going to go back for another coffee tonight and find out what on earth they've done since yesterday, because this has been superb by Binder. Mark then has just set his best time of the session, a 138.365. He's fourth fastest. At the moment, well, there are kind of 2 surprises in this session. Binder fastest, and Agura still holding on the 10th.
And Pecco Bagnaia just set his best lap time of the day, but fingers in your ears, Bagnaia fans, it was a 39.1. He's a second off the pace, and those yellow flags, well, I was about to say those yellow flags are going to leave him stranded outside the top 10. He's not looking likely to get himself in at any rate.
Looks like somebody's down at turn 2. That's a tricky left-hander it is, it's Johann Zarco. Now, could that be costly as far as Zarco's hopes of Q2 or direct place in Q2?
Binder's
are going to go.
Here.
Look at this by Binder. Brad Binder has stepped up to the plate here, hasn't he, on Friday in Catalan? Yeah, no wonder the boss Pit Byra gives a big nod of approval. Binder ain't going to stop that. You ain't stopping that, Brad. Nice try, but that one was not going to get stopped.
So Pecco Bagnaia, who's touring, he's now waiting. Well, there's yellow flags out again in Sector 1. They've just been cleared. They're now back out again. Is it for the same bike, or has someone else now entered one of the gravel traps? It's, in fact, Enea Bastianini who's gone down. Looks like he's also down at turn 2, and that's Pecco Bagnaia's goose well and truly cooked.
Yeah, that turn 2... Bike's on top of the air fence there, isn't it, on the exit of that second corner. You can see his airbags were activated as he hit the deck. It's not the first time that Enea's caused a bit of KTM chaos here. Well, look at that one. That is another big repair job overnight for the Beast crew. Yeah, he's livid, really frustrated with himself. In the middle of your picture is one of Enea's mechanics with the grey goatee, Steve Blackburn.
Cancel your evening plans.
He's just looked up at the monitor and gone... Yeah, I'll call you after midnight tonight, darling.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to be staying at Montmello for the next 5 or 6 hours to repair that. Are there any changes coming then in the top 10? The only one who might change it is Aldeguer, who's improving in the third sector. Morbidelli, as you can see, on a personal best, but he's 8th anyway. Aldeguer looking to try and rescue himself up the order from 17th. But there's some big names here, aren't there, outside the top 10. Quartararo 11th, Mir 13th on the Honda that's got pace to be higher up than that. Aldeguer only goes 14th. Di Gianantonio 17th, Martin 18th, and Pecco Bagnaia's miserable Friday at Montmello well and truly complete. 21st, which is third last.
Martin just cannot get anything at the moment, can he, out of a soft tyre on that Aprilia. There's nothing wrong whatsoever with his race pace, but when he has to go into time attack mode, it's just that lack of confidence, that lack of trust, which is really holding him back at the moment. Martin then 18th. He'll be concerned about that massive gap that there is in terms of the time attack pace. There's Danny Pedrosa from Pol Espargaro. What a great shot that is, of course. 2 top talents who do so much great work behind the scenes as KTM's star-studded test team. Well, all that hard work those 2 have been putting in of late. They were here for a private test recently, and well, that has paid off. Binder fastest on Friday here. No wonder they're so happy on the South African side of the factory KTM box. A 138.141 seals the deal for Binder. He's hotly pursued home by his teammate Pedro Acosta. Enea Bastianini, despite his rather expensive late crash at turn 2, does make it 3 KTMs then inside the top 10. Some other performances of note. Johann Zarco 8th. He was in the top 3 for so much of that session, although he was a late faller. Agura excelling. He picked his place behind Binder, didn't he? When Binder fired in his best lap of the session, he had Agura for company, and a Japanese rider goes through directly into Q2. Our 3 most recent MotoGP world champions In fact, make that 4. And they're all in Q2. Quartararo 11th, Mir 13th, Martin 18th, and Yaya 21st. That is a heavyweight Q1, isn't it? Tomorrow morning here in Catalonia. But it has been the dream start through Chapter 15 in 2025 as far as Red Bull KTM factory racing are concerned. Binder flying in fastest, Acosta second, and super strong.
Super strong. Boy, KTM looking strong on this opening Friday in Barcelona. They're fast in a straight line, but there's certainly much more to this KTM upturn than that. Certainly, whatever kind of corner, whatever kind of situation you put that KTM in around this Barcelona circuit, it is super quick. 3 of them inside the top 6, and you'd say they're only 3 fully fit riders comfortably through.
Yeah, Maverick Vinales, the outlier, and we'll excuse him, of course, because he's nowhere near his best physical shape right now. The Spaniard, he did a 1:39.308, left him down in 23rd place. Well, that was some conclusion, wasn't it, to that hour-long practice session here in Barcelona. Fabio Quartararo there, expressing his clear frustration. Quartararo is livid. He is absolutely raging. He's just anybody that will get within sort of 5 metres right now. Quartararo is getting an absolute earful, aren't they? What a day, though. Let's take nothing away from Red Bull KTM factory racing, because they have been the stars of the show here on Friday in Barcelona. Binder fastest, of course, a second. Let's get the thoughts of the boss. Aki, with Jack.
Yeah, huge day for KTM as Brad Binder comes into the box here. Aki, it's been impressive from Pedro since the summer break, really, but how big of a day is this for Brad? After all of the struggles to end the day fastest, that's got to be massive for him.
Of course, first of all, with all the riders today, really good day. Maverick is back, which is really important as well, and I think it's right moment for him to start now to make this recovery, let's say, finish the recovery on the bike. But of course, all the rest. NAI is really fast at the moment, and both here, Brad and Pedro. So I would say that somehow I see it natural step now, that we are really coming step by step. This is something what I really like. I don't like this that you are immediately there and improving so quick. So it's better to understand what you are doing, and I feel at least that we are understanding now what we do.
If I know you well, Aki, I know you'll be telling the team tonight it's Friday. Keep feet on the ground. Let's hope it continues.
For sure. I will say it with the low voice. It's only Friday.
Thank you, Aki.
Thanks a lot.